If you've done any programming in other languages, such as JavaScript or C# or Java, you've probably seen or worked with anonymous functions. Python also supports these, and they are referred to as Lambda functions. Lambda functions can be passed as arguments to other functions to perform some processing work, much like a callback function in a language like JavaScript works. Typically, you'll see these used in situations where defining a whole separate function would increase the complexity of the code and reduce readability. Lambdas are defined by using the keyword lambda, followed by any arguments that the lambda function accepts, then followed by an expression. So let's look at how they're used in practice, because that's usually the best way to understand something. All right, here in the code, let's go ahead and open up lambdas start. And here in my code, I have two regular functions, right? One's called Celsius to Fahrenheit, one is called Fahrenheit to Celsius, and they just convert temperatures from one scale to the other. And then over here, I've got two lists of temperatures, Celsius temperatures and Fahrenheit temperatures. Now, suppose I wanted to convert each of these lists to the other temperature scale. To do this, what I might use is the map function that we learned about, a little earlier. So the map function takes a function as the first argument and an iterable object as the second argument. So to convert these two lists, what I would probably do is write something like this, right? I'm going to create a new list of the result. Whoops. And inside that list, I'm going to call the map function. And the map function is going to use, for example, the Fahrenheit to Celsius function to work on the ftemps list. So that will return a new list of temperatures. And let's go ahead and make a copy of that. And in this case, I'll just call the other function, which is going to be Celsius to Fahrenheit. And that's going to work on the ctemps list. So let's go ahead and run this code. And I'm going to go into the terminal. And I'm going to run my lambdas code. And you can see the results here where each of the temperatures has been converted. Now, I can reduce the complexity of the code by writing each of the functions as an inline lambda. So let's go back and change the code to do that. So rather than using the explicit functions that I've defined up here, you can see that each of these functions is basically just a formula. You don't really need a whole separate function construct just to do this. What I'm going to do is just use each formula directly in line as a lambda. So for the Celsius to Fahrenheit version, I'm just going to copy that formula. And I'm going to replace the call to Celsius to Fahrenheit with what looks like this. I'm going to write lambda T, right? Because that's going to be the input temperature. And then I'm going to paste in the formula. So now I'm basically calling, and actually it's going to be T, not temp. There we go. So now I've got the formula directly in line. And rather than calling a function, I'm just going to specify this lambda keyword. I'm going to do the same thing for Fahrenheit to Celsius. I'm going to have lambda T. And let me go get that formula. That's this guy right here. Paste that in. And that's going to be the T variable. All right. So now when I run the code again, you can see that the results are the same. So in this particular case, using the lambda expression simplifies my code, right? Because I can see the calculation right where I'm using it. I don't have to track down that function, Fahrenheit to Celsius. It might be in some other module somewhere. And someone else who has to work with my code, right, even if that's me, like several years from now, doesn't have to go digging through all the source to find out where those functions are. Now, obviously, lambdas aren't a good fit for every scenario. In practice, you will, of course, continue to use regular functions in your programs, but lambdas can help make your code more readable when defining a full function is more effort than it's worth.